Welcome back. I'm Dr. Diana Hill, and this show is about helping you develop wise effort, helping you identify what matters to you, what's important to you in your life, how you want to show up, what's getting in the way of that, and how to point yourself in the direction of your values and savor the good of your life along the way. Hey, this is Diana, and I have a few things coming up that you may be interested in. If you are a clinician and you want to take a day-long ACT course with me through Pansy on eating and weight concerns, please join me on May 17th. I will be offering an online course through Pansy Continuing Education. You can learn more at drdianahill.com. I've also opened up my Costa Rica 2025 retreat. Those rooms go fast, especially the ones with air conditioning, so go check it out. There's a video there of this last retreat that we're on. We'll give you a little bit of a taste of what you could expect if you come with me in April 2025 to Blue Spirit Costa Rica. You won't want to miss that. And finally, if you haven't picked up the Self-Compassion Daily Journal yet, if you are a parent of a teenager, I'd actually really recommend it for your teen as well. I had a teenager on my last retreat, a 15-year-old, who found the self-compassion exercises incredibly helpful. So think about your teen as being another person who could benefit from some self-compassion. Alrighty, enjoy this episode. Today's episode, we are recording live from Blue Spirit, Costa Rica, with a workshop participant, Jennie Nash. Jennie, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, and then we are going to talk a little bit about what showed up for you over the course of this week. This is the end of a week-long retreat that we've done diving deep into wise effort. And you had sort of like a little pocket that you felt like, I'm curious about that for me. So introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in as we are sweating it out in 90-degree weather. So bring it on. Yeah, go for it, Jennie.
Thank you for inviting me. My name's Jennie Nash. I'm about to turn 60 years old. I'm a new grandma. I'm celebrating my 35th wedding anniversary this week, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. And
you came with your husband.
I did.
Yeah.
And I'm not here celebrating my anniversary by myself.
Yeah,
but I could have, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm the owner of a business that trains and certifies people to be book coaches.
My new best friend. Yes, and we've been talking about wise effort this week. Where did you get a little tripped up in your practice of wise effort?
Well, you taught us a grid, a wise effort grid, and taught us different things about each quadrant and moving in the direction of our values. And I kept getting tripped up because one of the quadrants had burnout in it. And I really am feeling a lot of burnout around my business that I've built. But I couldn't figure out why, because I kept thinking that I was doing such a good job in the other quadrant. I kept giving myself high marks.
Yeah, so we're gonna, just because people are like, grid, what do you mean? What is this? And I'm gonna describe this. This will be available on YouTube so people can see this if you wanna see it visually, but I'll do my best to describe it, the grid that we've been working on. So first we explored this horizontal line. So if you can imagine, there's a horizontal line across a page. And you could even, if you wanted, as listeners, as you're listening to this, you can get out a page and draw a line. It has 2 arrows on each end. And this line has to do with your values. At any moment in time, you're either pointing in the direction of your values or away from your values. And we spent a good amount of time exploring values. What came up for you when you were working on values, of the direction that you would want to point yourself in terms of your values?
I felt that I easily came up with my values, that those came easily to me and stayed strong as we moved through several exercises. Mm-hmm. Some of the top values are commitment, authenticity, and action.
Good. Okay, commitment, authenticity, and action. And then we talked about how values are things, they're sort of like the how of how you live your life. It's how you show up in the different domains of your life. Give me some examples of how you live out commitment, authenticity, action.
In my marriage, deep commitment.
35 years.
Yes. And and also deep authenticity, bringing our whole selves to that relationship. And the action shows up in that we do try to make time and make space to connect and to commit.
So is this true that you go to yoga together every single week? Are you that couple
We
that is
are.
doing this yoga? This is like the dream couple that when we go to a yoga class, we think, oh, I wish my husband went to yoga with me every week. Yeah, so you're totally committed.
And I want to say something
Yeah.
about that. My husband spends more time practicing yoga than I do.
Uh-huh.
And many times I have to tell myself that I need to go to take action on the commitment. It's a thing we do together, and there's a lot we don't do together. We have interests that take us separately.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm telling myself, oh, I'd rather do this or that, or I'd rather not go. And I say, no, go for these reasons, and I'm always happy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think one of the things that we were having breakfast and you talked to me about is that if we add in another line here, which is a vertical line, so you imagine there's a horizontal line, am I moving towards my values, am I moving away from my values? There's also a vertical line, which is, am I putting effort? How much energy am I putting into something? And the arrow that points up is high effort, and the arrow that points down is low effort. And this starts to flesh out these 4 quadrants. And when you're talking about your husband, and I also want to learn about your career, you have a clear sense of commitment and authenticity and action. And sometimes it's high effort to go to yoga. Mm-hmm. And it's worth it. So that top right quadrant is the worth it quadrant. Okay. So Miss Perfect over here, you're doing all these worth it things. And you had described that you're also doing things that are worth it in your work. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
I'm very committed to the business that I've made, and my business includes a community of people that I lead, and I'm very committed to the people and to the process that they're going through. And in terms of authenticity as a leader, I'm very conscious of being authentic, of saying when I've made a mistake or I've gotten something wrong or I've announced something that we're not actually doing.
And you've built it's like you coach, how many employees do you have and how many people do you coach? It's like a pretty large business at this point.
Yeah, I have about 6 employees, and we've certified 220 people all over the world. Mm-hmm. We've been in business for 10 years, and we have many hundreds of students going through our program.
Okay, so you have a lot of high effort towards values things. You have a lot of things that fall into this category.
Yeah.
But you said that you were burned out. And the way that I'm sort of describing these other quadrants is that when you're moving away from your values and engaging in high effort, this would be the top left quadrant, that can lead to burnout. So that can be if you're doing a job that doesn't, you're producing things that you're at this job that is out of alignment with your values. You're working for a company that is out of alignment with your values. Maybe you're treating yourself in a way when you're doing your job that's out of alignment with your values. And so we can also, you described yourself as having potential burnout. So I want to return to that, but I want to fill in the rest of these quadrants and we can talk about where you're kind of getting stuck here. So if you're moving away from your values and you have high effort, it can lead to burnout. If you're moving away from your values in a low effort way, it can lead to what I call not worth it. And not worth it are sort of like all the subtle avoidance stuff that we do that's away from our values. So for example, if your husband was asking you to go to yoga and you were kind of like, oh, I don't really want to, and then you just stay home and scroll on your phone for an hour while he goes to yoga, that might be a not worth it activity. It's not in line with your values and it ends up being low effort and not really feeding you. Yeah. Do you have things that fall into those categories of the burnout, away from your values, or not worth it away from your values categories?
I do. In the not worth it quadrant, I spend a lot of time shoe shopping online.
Okay, shoe shopping.
If things get uncomfortable in my work or difficult, or if something's going on in my larger family, that I'll numb out by
Yeah.
looking endlessly for the perfect pair of sandals. I'm barefoot right now.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because it's
will look at your shoes.
120 degrees.
It's 125 in here. It's increasing as we speak.
So that's the thing that I do that is, I mean, sometimes I get cute shoes, but I recognize that I spend too long in that activity.
Anything at work that's burning you out, that's away from values?
Yeah, the same thing will happen where I'll do the instantly easy thing like answer email, answer FAQ, post a social media thing, the easy, simple 2, 3, 5-minute action rather than the deep focus work that will actually solve a problem or produce something useful.
Yeah. Okay, so that all feels kind of just average, normal things that we do. We all go shoe shopping. We all do the instant, easy,
Yeah.
But I actually think there's something bigger and deeper and more problematic when we were talking at breakfast with you in terms of this diagram. So I want to flesh out this bottom right, and then I want to explore the more problematic. So the bottom right part of the diagram is when you're moving towards your values and you have low effort. That's a good thing. We all need to be doing that. Savoring, being present, enjoying our life, okay? And you end up having this quadrant this diagram where you have on the left-hand side, you're moving away from your values, it leads to burnout and not worth it. And on the right-hand side is what I would consider wise effort, worth it, and savoring. But I actually think that, you're doing a good amount in the worth it category, your average in your burnout, not worth it category. And that's what you were confused about.
Yes, I was confused because when we were doing work on high value, high effort, which is the worth it quadrant, I was thinking, I got this. I built something that's meaningful to me, that has deep purpose to me. I can name who I help, how I help them, why it's good. I often say that it's a win-win sort of business. And so I thought, I've got this. So why do I feel such a sense of burnout around it? And I couldn't figure that out. I kept getting stuck thinking, well, this doesn't apply.
So when you talk about commitment, authenticity, and action, how do you do those in relationship to yourself? It sounds like you do it in relationship to your husband, you do it in relationship to your work, but do you do it in relationship to you? Do you keep your commitments to you? Are you authentic to yourself and your needs? Do you take action to support yourself?
I was tempted to say no, but then some things came to mind that fit in with that, but it still feels like I want to say no.
Okay, tell me about the part of you that wants to say no.
The things that I do that are in commitment to myself, or the actions that I take, feel surfacey. Like I go to acupuncture, I go to yoga, I eat well. It feels like just a checklist. It doesn't feel. I don't think I would be authentic if I said, "Yeah, I'm great at that." I don't think I am.
What would it look like if it weren't surfacey? What does it mean to not be surfacey in that? Because I get that, like you put on your essential oils and you, whatever.
Yeah, it's like
Not to bash essential oils, because Luca has been making us beautiful essential oils this week, so I don't want to bash the essential oil.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would be a deeper?
I mean, really, it's the difference between intellectualizing and taking it inward. I am really good at the intellectual part. I know what I should do that's good for me. I know the words to say. The books to read, the podcasts to listen to.
Yeah, can I give you some feedback?
Yeah.
So this week, pretty much every time I sat down with you at a table for dinner, no matter who you were sitting next to, you were offering them a book to read.
Yeah.
Or if they were lucky and they were writing a book, you were playing the role. So it was almost like I was just like, who's Jennie outside of that?
What's interesting is that you asked us the very first time we gathered, the very first night we were here, you asked us to write on a card what we needed from ourselves and what we needed from the group. And what I wrote that I needed from the group was not to be asked to lead, not to be asked to step up, not to be asked to help. I know. I didn't allow myself that. The group did, but I didn't. I don't know how to not be that.
And you're a magnet for it. Look, you were the obvious person that I would wanted to approach to do this.
Yeah.
So what's going on there when somebody is asking you to lead or step up? When we talked about the things that lead us away from our values, we talked about 3 things: avoidance, attachment, and fusion with the story, right? You could put it in those categories or not, but what's going on there when somebody asks you to lead or step up? Or, I mean, you were giving me book, we were already like working on my book. You're here to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah. What pulls you out of yourself and into that role?
I'm really good at it.
And you're very successful.
It's where I feel vitality and aliveness, perhaps because I'm good at it. I was valued in my family, competency, getting things done, achievement. So I'm comfortable in that role. If I'm honest, I sometimes think I'm better at it than other people, so I should do it better. Yeah, I should be the one.
Which may be true, and that would be a fusion with the story, but sometimes the stories are true. But the question I have is if that's become inflexible for you, if that you stepping in, you being the person that gives the book idea, you the person that steps up for the real play, you being the competent, accomplished, successful person, if that has become so much of a habit that maybe there's something getting lost in there and maybe it's contributing to burnout. Because you said, I'm burned out. I'm burned out by doing worth it activities.
Yeah, high value, high effort activities that I love and that I created and that I made are burning me out because I think I don't know how to not do it.
What would you have to feel if you didn't do it?
I think I would feel adrift, lost, potentially alone.
Alone? Say more about that.
What I'm good at is things with other people, helping other people, being in deep connection, deep instant connection and commitment, an authentic relationship to other people. That's what my work is. That's what I'm good at. That's the role I play. And during COVID, when everyone else was freaking out that they couldn't go outside and they couldn't go to social things and they were so isolated, I was living my best life because I just kept doing what I do. And I had rich relationships with people all over the world and rich connection. And I sort of loved it. I sort of loved COVID time. So it's connected. I said alone, if I were not doing that in that role, I feel that I would sort of just be sitting there alone.
That's what you're afraid of. This sort of the all or nothing.
Yes.
The black and white, the either or.
Yes.
That either I'm all in, creating commitment, authenticity, action, or I'm alone.
Yeah.
But then there's someone and something that's getting missed along the way, which is Jennie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you said the very first day, what I really wanted was not to be the person that is doing what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
And I'm fully participating in it. I am like,
yeah.
I'm like, you're a dealer. dealing Jennie her drug.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a huge revelation to me when I realized what I've been feeling about my work is resenting it, thinking I needed to quit, just pull the plug on this thing that I made, thinking it was too much, thinking there was no way out. And I sort of came here expecting a plan for that, to make a plan for that. How do I disengage from this? And what I couldn't figure out about the quadrant is why did I feel that way about a thing that was so over there?
So I gave you the analogy earlier. I said you're like you're a Home Depot pansy. Home Depot pansies are when you go into Home Depot and there's these little tiny plants in the 6-packs, and they have these giant pansy flowers, and they catch your eye, and you're like, oh, I want some of those pansies. I'm going to buy those and go put them in my garden. But then you go put them in the garden, and they've been so over-fertilized to bloom that they have no root structure.
Yeah.
They're burned out.
Yeah.
So by the time you get them in their garden, they're going to last just like a short little time. Versus if you go get your pansies at Island Seed and Feed, there's going to be like no flower on the thing. You don't even know if you got the right plant, but you put it in your garden and it's just super, super, there's a lot of richness to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, oftentimes what we do is an all or nothing mind thinks of all or nothing solutions.
Yep.
So the all or nothing solution is I should quit my job. And I do the same thing. I'm like the queen of quitting. But I quit, and then I have to and then I find the middle path after I've quit, and then find my way back. Like I quit grad school, I quit a podcast, I quit all sorts of things, and then I find the middle path, and then I'm like, oh, actually I do want that.
Yeah.
And you could do it that way. But my guess is that the challenge of your success is everyone wants your pansy. I mean, it's beautiful. People want to buy you. I want you here. I want Jennie Pansy to come do her things. I know you're going to do a good job. The challenge for you is, I actually think this bottom category of savoring, and savoring is one word. Another word sometimes I put down here is undoing. And that comes from actually David White. He talks about in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, we all wake up with our to-do lists.
Yeah.
And that he started doing this practice of an undoing list. These are all the things I'm not going to do today. But my guess is that for you, this bottom category of undoing, or even getting to know yourself, independent, like a lot of your values are falling into domains other than the domain of you. And you get scared when you think about the possibility of being with yourself, that would make you be alone or adrift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say more about like this category, the savoring, undoing relationship with Jennie category. What is there anything in there that?
I just feel like I spend so little time in that space. When I am alone, I like to be alone with myself. So it's not about fear of being alone. That's different than being lonely. If I'm alone, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to plan a course. I'm going to set some goals. Yeah, I'm going to.
This Rupi Kaur's productivity anxiety.
Yeah, I'm going to be great. I'm going to fill those. Give me all the time. I'm going to be all up in my head.
Uh-huh.
We had a lesson in yoga this week that really helped me think about this space, which was the 3 levels of the heart that Luca shared. The outer level was the level, this was my interpretation, that faces out to the world. The next layer down was the layer that interacts with the people we love, that are close to us, that we bring inside. And then she said that the 3rd layer inside was, she said the word unbreakable. And there was a deep well of compassion in that space. And I keep thinking about that. I feel like not that you can have a good heart. I guess you can have a good heart. But I feel like the outer layers, I'm good at, I get, I feel. And that inner layer, I thought, oh, didn't know that was there. Didn't know that was a place to go. So that place, you're alone in that place.
Alone or lonely?
Maybe I think both. I think maybe I'm afraid of that place. I was very alone in my family growing up. Felt really misunderstood and really didn't belong. Was lonely, really lonely. And action in those outer rings with people, with the world, getting the gold stars.
Make your flowers bright enough, somebody will like you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got really good at that.
Yeah.
Because I think that was where I got fed.
And there's nothing wrong with those outer rings. They're really beautiful, and I hope that you continue to produce and be, do all the things that are worth it to you and align with your values. It also sounds like there's this inner part of your heart that needs some tending to.
Yeah.
And you were touched in yoga. That was one avenue to
Yeah.
get to it, which is
Yeah.
which is great. So now you have an avenue. You're like, oh, I kind of not just thought about it, you felt it, right? And that feeling state is probably the state that is also like the thing that you felt may be an inner resource if you spent time with that, if you built it up, that would help you with the burnout, or even in making the decisions of whether or not you're going to do something or not, and not having it be driven by avoidance or attachment.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can all do quote worth it activities, but even worth it activities, if they're driven by attachment, they become not worth it activities. They burn you out. Even if it looks like what you're doing is, of service, or building community, or flying to go see your grandchild. We talked about that, like that this is a pattern for you. And that having that discernment requires connecting with that deepest part of your inner heart of what you really need.
Yeah.
And only you know that.
My instinct is to intellectualize that.
Yeah.
Think about that. I'm going to draw a diagram of that.
Right.
I'm going to put some labels on that diagram.
Good.
That's what I know how to do.
You're going to come up with a title for the book about that.
Thank you. Yes, I will, and it's going to be great. And I'm so fast to move away from that into the avoidance is just hair trigger.
Yeah, so your avoidance is to go straight to your head.
Yeah.
That is like your number one avoidance. It's not really shoe shopping, let's just get real. Your real avoidance strategy, and it's subtle and super reinforced, is to get heady about things and diagram things and come up with a title and fix that and
Yeah.
And can you feel the difference when you're doing that versus what you felt in Luca's class? Can you feel it in your body? What it feels like?
I haven't felt it very often.
Very often. Are there other places you felt it? Maybe even on this trip have you felt it?
I'm gonna say something that may embarrass my husband, but I've written it in books, so I think it's gonna be okay.
Okay.
One of the times and places I always feel it is when we're having sex.
Yeah. Lucky you. Yeah. Lucky you that you have that experience of true intimacy.
Yeah.
It makes you feel sad, or just there's tears there?
Now it's sweat.
No, don't avoid. You touched something.
No, it makes me feel sad. It wasn't sad, actually. It makes me feel guilty because I know so many people, so many of my friends are struggling with that kind of connection and don't have that kind of connection. And I think, how did I get so lucky? So it's not sad, it's gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah, there's a difference between guilt and gratitude. You did a nice redirect to gratitude. Oftentimes, if we can take guilt and turn it into gratitude, it helps heal the guilt. So you go to guilt because you value this commitment and other people and that stuff. Yeah, going back to gratitude. And you're not alone in that. There's a really classic study called The Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind. And they pinged people throughout their day to find out when are people most present, and then they pinged them and asked them questions. How present are you? What are you doing? And how happy are you? Most of us, our minds are wandering most of the time. And for most of us, when our mind is wandering, whether it's to something pleasant or unpleasant, we're unhappy. Less happy than we are if we're present. But the place where people felt the most present, the least mind wandering, was during sex.
I once had a therapist ask me when I felt happy, and I said that during sex. I said, when I'm cleaning my house, and she looked at me kind of the way you're looking at me right now. And it was, what I meant by that was when I'm cleaning the house, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just doing it.
Flow.
Totally in the flow. And it's like, maybe I'm gonna clean all the windows and leave all the rags and the thing, and then I'm gonna grab the vacuum. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not thinking, it's productive.
Yeah.
But
But it's you're in a state of flow. You're out of your head, you're in your life, you're in your body.
yeah.
And so if we were to like flesh out, I actually think this quadrant, the towards values low effort quadrant, is what we need. You need a little bit of beefing up. Like this is some of your roots that need a little bit tending to. And we'll just put in that quadrant, cleaning. More cleaning, more sex for you. You can do them together if you want. Could be interesting. More cleaning, more sex, more heart, bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
Yoga of the heart.
Yeah. Well, and I think I need to realize that some of the things that I do that I think are in the savor category are not. Because I will tell myself that was what I started with, like the surface level things. I play a lot of pickleball. I love it. I'm always happy out there.
Yeah, but you also were saying you were like the top pickleball champion of the universe.
I'm very competitive.
Extremely competitive.
It's not savoring.
It's not savoring. It's not low effort.
So a lot of the things, I need to put more things in that box.
Need to or want to?
I want to.
I want to put more things in here. This is going to require, we talked about yesterday, if any time we're moving over to the right side of this diagram of doing more worth it or doing more savoring, I'm doing. There was the question that I asked you. I asked two questions yesterday. One is, what is a life that works for you? And the other question is, what is it that I shouldn't even say need to, want to accept in order to have that life?
Yeah.
And probably for you, it's entering a little bit into that wilderness of that alone space that as an adult is different to enter into than it was as a child. Yeah. It's scary as a child. And you're an adult now with a husband of 35 years.
Yeah.
Community of support. So it's different for you.
What came up for me in that activity of what a good life would look like on a day-to-day basis was more a sense of expansiveness. My days would look very similar to how they already look, but more of a sense that when I'm doing a thing, I'm just doing that thing. I'm not waiting to get back to the getting things done place. That instead of just going through the motions of the things, I'm letting myself be in
the
it,
process.
Be in it, and not have my head be somewhere else. Often at the end of a yoga practice, the teacher will say, stay in the room. Don't start planning dinner yet. Don't, like whatever the words they would say. And I always think they're in my head, looking at my head, because I'm out. I got things to do.
Yeah. Get me out of shavasana. Yeah, the twitchy shavasana folks.
Yeah.
We all know those, they're kind of like looking up at the wall. And one way to treat shavasana or treat cleaning the dishes or things that you do in your day is the same way that you treat the sacredness of having sex.
Yeah.
That there's no moment other than this moment. And you know how to do it. You've done it. And you practice it.
Yeah.
And maybe, one suggestion or one offering is just to choose one or two things that will be your practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be, I'm gonna bring the practice of just being in the process and not being in the outcome with this activity on a daily basis. Just as we did, we practiced walking meditation in here for just a little bit, and the rest of the day we just sort of like totally forgot. But we did that one practice, and if you choose a practice, and we're moving into committed action now because I want you to leave here with a practice. If you choose a practice, it's your meditation. It's a working meditation. It's So, where's one place that you think you could make a commitment to that will be a practice of undoing, of savoring, of being in the process without the outcome that you could do when you go home from here? And it could be just 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
I'm thinking of all the things that I don't want it to be. For me, I don't want it to be writing because that's my work. I don't want it to be reading.
These are aspirations.
Right, that's my
Someday
work.
you could make it writing and reading, but not yet.
Right?
Yeah. This is our both and thinking. It might be that someday.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting still, so I've been starting recently a practice of going on a 10-minute walk as soon as I get up, like just minutes after I get up, because what I was realizing was I was at my computer 5 minutes after I got up. A lot of the people that work for me are 3 hours ahead of me, so I would start the day with a sense of I'm behind. I gotta get in. I gotta see. I'm gonna just look before I have a cup of coffee.
You have children.
Grown. Yeah.
When you made them breakfast in the morning when they were kids, did you have a general sense of like, I'm going to send this kid off to school with a little bit of protein, a little bit of fiber?
Yeah.
You were careful about what you fed them first thing in the day.
Yeah.
So we can think about that with our mind. What are we feeding our minds first thing?
Yeah.
And if you go straight to your work, you're feeding your mind work.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, why am I so burned out at work? I've been feeding it since we woke up. So taking a walk first thing is fantastic.
Yeah, so I've been doing that. I've been enjoying that. And I think I would like to bring some of the mantras that we learned here to that, because it's hard for me to do that and not start making a list. Yeah. And sort of racing back because I got things on my mind I want to put right down.
Yeah. Which mantra would be one that you think would be beneficial for you on that walk? If you were to start with one.
I liked the yes, thank you. It felt tangible to me and simple, and I didn't have to think about it.
So stepping one foot yes, the other foot yes. One foot thank you, the other foot thank you. And you've already practiced it with the walk.
Yeah.
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 Great.
So I think something like that would deepen that practice.
Beautiful. So a committed action plan we talked about on the first day is one that has a specific goal, but it has a goal that's measurable and realistic and timely. And I've been doing all of those things, those SMART goals with you and these questions that I've been asking you. I'm like, really be specific. Like we can all get the specific picture of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then a committed action plan also is connected to your values.
Yeah.
So I just want to close this out with, if you were to do that on a regular basis of taking a little time to savor a morning walk, and that may transform, that may change. It may be like a walk for a month and then freedom for that to be flexible and move into something else, but you're starting to cultivate this inner heart space. What value in what domain would you be living out? Like, why would you want to do that? Just as a big picture, like, what is that about for you?
It's so wild to think about that, because I was so clear on my values when we started this week, and they were all outward facing values. I didn't think about myself at all. And when you taught us about the domains of work and family and relationship, I think I said earlier, oh, I'm on this, I got this, I know my values and I know how they fit and all of that. And I feel when I look at those values, commitment, authenticity, and action, it would be a commitment to myself and being authentic with myself and taking action for myself. And that feels really new.
Good.
Really new.
Yeah, and you sort of shook a little bit when you said it, which means we're onto something.
I'm going to be 60 years old. Like, it takes us this long to...
You're growing up.
Yeah.
You're growing up. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give a hand to Jennie for being so brave.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Effort podcast. Wise Effort is about you taking your energy and putting it in the places that matter most to you. And when you do so, you'll get to savor the good of your life along the way. If you would like to become a member of the Wise Effort podcast, go to wiseeffort.com. And if you like this episode and think it would be helpful to somebody, please leave a review over at Podchaser or call me at 805-457-2776. I would like to thank my team, my partner in all things, including the producer of this podcast, Craig, Ashley Hyatt, the podcast manager, and Yoko Nguyen, who is the social media manager. And thank you to Ben Gold at Bell & Branch for our new music. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and it's not meant to be a substitute for mental health treatment.